Hi guys, hope you guys are doing well. Welcome back to my channel. So as you guys can see from the title, today I am going to be doing a video on the pros and cons of being an accountant. So before I get into that, let me just give you guys a quick like 5 to 10 second background about myself. So I am a senior accountant. I have been working in the accounting field for about 7 years now. Time is definitely flying, but I've been working in the accounting field for about 7 years now, and I have my bachelor's degree in I was about to say I have my bachelor's degree in accounting. I do not have my bachelor's degree in accounting. I actually have my bachelor's degree in finance. So I did finance, and then I made my way into the accounting field once I graduated. Literally as soon as I graduated, I made my way into the accounting field. I also do have my MBA, and I said that I'm a senior accountant, but later on down the line, I definitely see myself as like a controller or like a CFO. I definitely see myself in that position, and the sky really is the limit. But without further ado, let me just get right into the pros and cons of being an accountant. Alright guys, so the first and most important pro of being an accountant, in my opinion, definitely has to do with job stability and job availability. And what I mean by that is there's always going to be an accountant job available no matter where you go. Whether it's in the state that you live in, out of state, out the country, there's always going to be a need for an accountant. In order for an organization to be able to effectively run properly, there's always going to be a need of an accountant to be able to manage the ins and outs of your cash flow. And the key word was effectively. You need an accountant to be able to manage your finances for you. So with that being the case, the job for an accountant, there's always a need for an accountant. And I feel like in this day and age, especially with so much uncertainty going on, you need to put yourself in a field that offers you that job stability and that peace of mind. So the second pro of being an accountant is definitely the fact that you are not limited to a specific field or industry. So I'm gonna quickly use myself as an example. I have worked in education, I have worked for an architectural firm, I have worked for a law firm, and I'm currently working in healthcare. So I say this to say that as an accountant, you're not limited to where you can work. So let's say you are a person that has a passion for nonprofit. You are able to look for a nonprofit organization, and you're able to make your way into the accounting department and be just okay as long as you have the proper qualifications for it. So, and I took my time to list all the industries that I've worked at just to show you that you're not limited. All these industries that I listed are in their own lanes, but yet I was able to work in every single one of them. So you're definitely not limited, and I definitely think that that is a pro. All right guys, so the next pro definitely has to be the work-life balance that being an accountant provides. You know, at times it can be debatable whether you have that work-life balance, which I am going to get into when I go over my cons. However, I feel like the overall picture of being an accountant, you really do have that work-life balance. On a regular, you're usually just working your regular 9 to 5, 40 hours a week, and you're able to move on with your life and do what it is that you want to do. But like I said, I am going to be going into more details about your hours when it gets to a specific time of the month. I am going to be going into details about that with my cons. But work-life balance is great. I don't think I really need to speak too much on the work-life balance. It's pretty self-explanatory. So let's get right into the next pro. All right guys, so the next pro of being an accountant is definitely the potential of a great salary. And I feel like when it comes to accounting, there really isn't a salary cap. Like, the sky really is the limit of how much you can make. And Okay, let me just say this. If you're watching this and you are a new grad from college, don't expect to come out of college making your first six figures. I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but if we're realistically speaking, you're probably gonna come out of college making $50,000 a year. So when I graduated back in 2017, I don't know if I got my first job in 2017 or I started the beginning of 2018. I can't remember, but when I got out of college, I think my first salary was $50,000. Obviously, if you are determined and you are a go-getter, if you get a little experience under your belt, you can easily go ahead and make your six figures. But realistically speaking, as a new grad, you're probably going to be making around $40,000 to $50,000 at your new job. But I say this to say that there isn't a cap of how much money you can make in accounting. Just get some experience under your belt and you can really just make your way up. So there's definitely great opportunity to make good money. So my last pro definitely has to be that you are going to be intellectually challenged on a regular basis. And I feel like this pro is a bit debatable, I can't lie, but for me, I think it's definitely more of a pro than a con. When it comes to accounting, there's a lot of analysis that needs to be done. There is plenty of problem solving on a daily basis, and you have to be able to think fast and come up with solutions quickly so that things aren't being blown out of proportion. And if you are somebody that doesn't necessarily think fast or doesn't necessarily love the challenge of having to quickly come up with solutions, then maybe this might be more of a con for you, which is why I said that it is debatable. But for me, I like the fact that my mind isn't stagnant all the time, because like I said, accounting can get very repetitive, but I feel like with different problems that come up each day, it's able to help me just kind of keep my mind stimulated. But like I said, it's debatable. Let me know in the comments if you feel like this is more of a pro or more of a con, but for me, it's definitely a pro. But with that being said, let's get right into the cons. My first con, and I really think this is like a con for a lot of accountants, is how hectic it gets during month end and how hectic it gets during year end. So when you are interviewing for an accountant position, during your interview process, the interviewers are going to emphasize the fact that you're not really allowed to take off during month end, and you're not allowed to take off during year end because it is our busiest times of the month and the year. So they emphasize the fact that you can't take time off and it's all hands on deck. And I feel like if you're somebody that enjoys traveling, especially during the end of the year when it's like the holiday season, this is definitely a con for you. Also during these times, yes, I said that as a pro, you do have like a very nice work-life balance in accounting, which I still stand strongly on that. You definitely have a good work-life balance, but around month end, which is usually around like the first week of the month. So let's say if you're in December, you're probably doing month end stuff for November. So that's how it works in accounting. So during these times, yes, you have good work-life balance overall as an accountant, but during these times, it's hectic. You're most likely working more than 40 hours a week. Some companies actually require you to work on weekends. Thankfully for me, I think my first job out of college, I was required to work some weekends. But ever since then, I haven't really worked for a company where it is required for me to work on a weekend during month end or year end. But it's not uncommon, and during these times, it can get very hectic and you may feel like you're not really getting that work-life balance that you need. But trust me, when you look at the overall picture, you're getting a good work-life balance in comparison to other professions. That's all I'm gonna say. But this one is definitely a con, primarily because it can get extremely hectic around this time. And if you are a person that's not really good under pressure or you stress a lot, this time of the month is definitely not going to be your favorite. So I am definitely putting this as a con because end of month, year end. Alright guys, so the next con is that there is definitely limited creativity when it comes to accounting. Just like a quick story, I remember my first job out of college, I was working with this guy and he was a new grad as well. And he was like a very like artsy type of person, like a creator. And I remember he ended up quitting like our job because he was just saying how like accounting is just way too boring for him and he just can't take it anymore. So he did end up quitting accounting. I don't know what he went into. I don't know what he went into, but he went into something else. But I say this to say that like for a creative person, accounting just might not be the profession for you, or you might feel like this is such a con because accounting is a repetitive cycle. Like on a monthly basis, you are doing the same thing, you're following the same procedures, and there are strict policies that you have to follow to be able to make sure that everything is balancing correctly at the end of the month. So if you're somebody that, you know, you love being creative, you love doing things outside of the box, then this is definitely going to be a con for you because when it comes to accounting, you have to follow strict procedures. There's none of that. So that's definitely a con. The next con definitely has to be the fact that when it comes to accounting, everything has to balance to the penny. And I feel like that can get extremely frustrating at times because you are spending, you know, sometimes it's a very easy fix where you're off by just a few dollars and you're able to just quickly figure out your mistake. And then other times it can take you anywhere from a few hours to a few days just to figure out why you were off by maybe like $2. Like, it's a very frustrating process, and I personally, for me, I find that to be a con. I feel like if I am off maybe by a penny or two, like I don't need to be spending 3 days trying to figure out where that penny is coming from. So that's frustrating for me, and that's why I say that it's a con. If you don't think that's a con, that's on you. If you want to spend freaking a whole week figuring out why you're off by $2, like by all means. But personally for me, that's very frustrating. Okay, so the next con definitely has to be dealing with nagging clients. And I feel like this is more of like a universal con. Just having to deal with very unprofessional clients on a monthly basis, for me, it's a con. One thing that I have realized just like working in a professional setting is people really do lack self-awareness, and people really lack effective communication skills. Because sometimes I will be speaking to a client, presenting to them, I was gonna say the gender, presenting to them like their financials or any concerns that I have, and they spaz. Like, I've had this happen to me quite a lot actually, where a client is not necessarily happy with what they're seeing, and instead of just effectively communicating the reason why they feel the way that they feel, they just sit there and they just nag and they're just nasty, and you're just sitting there like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know, just working in a professional setting just made me realize that these adults that I've had the privilege of working with are just kids, and it just really bothers me sometimes, I can't lie. But for me personally, just dealing with clients, not all clients, some clients are actually very nice, very professional, but you know, once in a while, you know, on a monthly basis, I will come across like clients that are just kind of not really nice, and I don't know, I don't like it. It doesn't really sit well with me, but it comes with the job. yeah, like no matter what you do in the accounting department, you're going to have to deal with clients one way or another. Sometimes it's very brief and by email, and then other times it's like via Teams video call where you have to literally sit there and just watch them just explode. But that's a con for me. You know, other people actually enjoy the client like relationship. Personally for me, I'd rather just stick to doing the financials and not really have that interaction with the clients. But unfortunately that comes with my position and I have to deal with it. I am rapping, but this is just such a con for me. Like, it just really is. Overall though, I feel like if you are a person that is currently contemplating on whether to enter the accounting field or not, I definitely think that you should go for it. In my opinion, the pros definitely outweigh the cons, but like I said, that is my opinion. So if you are somebody that's contemplating on this, just definitely go for it. There is plenty room for career advancement. There is great salary potential if you apply yourself. So let me emphasize on if you apply yourself. I feel like for me personally, it wasn't up to like maybe 2 years ago when I really started to apply myself in my field. For the longest time, I was just sitting back and just letting opportunities pass me by, primarily because of imposter syndrome. I just kind of felt like I didn't really qualify, or I wasn't really good enough for certain opportunities that were coming my way, and I was just letting them pass me by. But I say this to say that if you apply yourself and you apply yourself early on in your career, I can promise you, you can make a lot of money and you can make it quickly. So my advice to you, whoever's watching this, apply yourself earlier on in your career and it will be extremely beneficial for you in the long run. Trust me on that one. But I think this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I don't really talk that much, so even just sitting behind the camera and just talking to you guys, I'm like, go me, okay, go me. But I'm gonna end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and it was very informative for you guys. If it was, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.